So why is it that how late was too late on this podcast tonight?
I was thinking
What
like
do you have going
around
on?
I was thinking like around 9 or 10. I get tired. I'm old.
Oh, oh, if that's the only reason why, then I'm not too concerned about it. I didn't know if you had something going on or not.
Well, aside from work the next day, but tomorrow I'm off because we're actually going to Frisco, Texas to go see a surgeon for my back, not to get surgery, but just get a second opinion on
Oh,
what the next steps are to um, heal and fix my back because chiropractor has been great to an extent, but it doesn't stick and stay. The decompression helped
mm-hmm.
with the bulging disc initially, but the pain's coming back. I'm limited as to what I can and can't do, and I got to be so easy, and so just want to see what the next steps are, get a second opinion, and just kind of see what happens, because obviously surgery is like last case, worst case scenario kind of a deal. Being so young, in my opinion,
Right.
a lot of people say that. Most likely, what I'm thinking he'll want to do is get another MRI after looking at the MRI that I had from back in June, and get a second
Mm.
MRI, see where my back is currently, and then go from there. Whether it's physical therapy of some sort, maybe a shot to decrease the swelling um, from that bulging disc, because I'm sure it's still bulging. Um, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. Just got to get it better so I can get my butt back in shape and get back to life as normal.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, nothing really new this week. We finally got our fencing done and everything around the yard. So we did that. We actually, I'm proud of us because we just hammered down and got this, in the wintertime nonetheless. And we dug the holes, we concreted the poles, we got the fencing up all in a weekend. I was
Wow.
impressed. I can't believe we got that all done. But it did cost the life of a drill. So now I've burned up my last corded drill.
Quarter drill. I haven't used one of those in years. Yeah. Uh, did y'all use like the aluminum piping, or did y'all use like the steel thick piping?
No, wood,
Oh, you used no for the.
wood posts.
Oh, you used wood posts. Oh, okay, gotcha,
Yeah, wood
gotcha,
posts. And
gotcha.
then we had gotten on an auction some chain link, which we'll do for now. But the reason we had to go wood post is because eventually it'll all turn into um, cedar slat privacy fence eventually. But
Yeah.
that's as we have the money to get all the slats and everything like that. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
Right
I
now,
heard
it's chain link.
I saw a deal recently that apparently Lowe's and Home Depot may do the same thing. I'm not sure, but I heard through the grapevine that you can go to Lowe's and you can ask them for any lumber that's been returned, and apparently you can get a quite a large discount on returned lumber and fencing, any type of lumber. So next time you need lumber of any
Really?
sort, yeah, you might go to Lowe's or Home Depot and say, "Hey, do y'all have any returned lumber that I can get at a discounted price?" And see what happens.
Man, I tell you what, speaking of wood, I got the hookup today from
Yeah.
and it's like he did me good enough that I'm going to give him a little shameless plug here because well he's a friend of mine and he owns this company called True Log Homes. It's in Grangeville, Idaho, and man, I tell you what, they make some awesome log homes. They're always working on them. But anyway, I needed some firewood, and he hooked me up. It was pretty
Oh, I
awesome. He
bet.
I went out there. Yeah, he's of course they always have wood and stuff, and so
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I got a trailer load today. But yeah, heck, any of you listening, if you need a log home, look them up. They do a fantastic job at building log cabins and everything like that. And they'll go as big. They're all custom, so they'll go as big as you want.
I've always wanted.
Yeah.
I think that's probably my dream home is a true, genuine log cabin, not like the log siding that's like a half of a piece of wood, but I'm talking like genuine, true, solid logs. I've always wanted to. Is that what they do? Is like the true logs for like log cabins?
Oh yeah, this is
Oh wow,
this is the real deal. That's why
man.
it's called True Log. True Log Homes.
Hence the name. Well, you never know. You never know. You never know. No, that's cool though. Yeah, that's if y'all need a log cabin, hit them up.
Well, and all of them, most of those logs that they're using are hand skinned. Like he has guys out there
Oh yeah,
skinning those things, of course with power tools, but by hand.
yeah. No, they're old school. They're out there with that big dill scraping them big
Right.
logs all the way to
With a draw knife.
Yeah. One house takes like 2 years to build.
Oh gosh. Yeah. No, they got all the modern conveniences. They can knock a house out in no time for all intents and purposes. But
they probably have like a large planer and they just shove that log through there and
well, most of them are done. So they got several different little stations there, and they, so these guys will initially do the hand skinning of them, and then they've got a lathe that will true the log up to what it is, and then it comes out a fully skinned, trued up log, and that can be cut, that can be moved out, and then cut in whatever. The arch, the shape to fit them together like a Lincoln logs, So anyway, that goes out and that gets cut by the guys with a chainsaw and all that. It's a heck of a process.
Yeah, that's impressive.
But yeah, I have got to say thank you to True Log for hooking me up with some good firewood because we're getting low. I just didn't have a chance to cut firewood like we had talked. I don't know how long ago on it. But
right.
Yeah. And so now I'm just having to source this stuff.
How much longer do you guys have of winter, do you think? A few more months?
Yeah, because it's not uncommon. I mean, we've been doing okay, but we got snow coming in, and there's talk of another cold front. But normally it's, there's a possibility of snow even around Easter time.
Really?
There's people that say they've seen snow around Easter. Yeah.
Well, they're saying, we've been in the 70s and 80s this week here, and they're saying next Tuesday that we're expecting. Now, get this. I know this will be a shocker to you, Aaron. This is a lot of snow. I mean, this is a lot of snow here. 2.5 inches.
Oh!
Look out. We might not be driving.
Oh, you know what we forgot? We're like 10 minutes, 12 minutes into this episode, and we have not even introduced the show. So let's go ahead and introduce the show, huh?
Let's go for it. Fearless.
Chase.
Bold.
Following.
Courageous.
Search. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Marshall.
And this is
Undaunted
Pursuit. All right. Hey guys, and welcome back to Undaunted Pursuit. You heard us talking earlier, and we just want to tell you thanks for listening. And yeah, so we're going to get back into it.
Glad you're here.
Just because we forgot to do this at the beginning. Yeah. So there we go. Yep. Intro done. A little late.
Better late than never.
Right? Well, yeah, that's okay. But oh man, well heck, I guess maybe we ought to get into it, huh? I don't really have much more small talk. Yeah.
Oh, I can make stuff up all night long.
It hasn't been very exciting.
We have more important things to talk about.
That's right. That's right. So we had left. We didn't get finished with Luke chapter 5 last week, so
Right.
we're gonna pick up where we left off there. But I wanted to kind of recap a little bit for the listeners if they're just starting on this episode. Whatever, we've seen Jesus is gathering his disciples, and at the beginning of the chapter, we saw the boatload of fish. He with Simon and James and John. He he performed that miracle, and he healed a leper. Right, we talked about that.
Yeah.
And now the paralytic,
Yeah.
which is where we're kind of leaving from there. So they had dropped this paralytic in from the roof, and he healed him. And then, of course, the Pharisees, being who they are, whatever, was questioning who he was to forgive sins. And so anyway, now he's taken all this on, and now he's ready to take on a tax collector. Now, and let me tell you, these tax collectors, they were Jewish citizens, but of course they were looked upon and frowned upon by society, by their fellow Jews, because they were outcasts from society. Because not only because they were collecting, but they were almost incentivized to over collect because they could keep everything over collected after they paid, because it was a bidding system. Marshall, all these tax collectors would bid out, and then they would agree on, and it was a really competitive system. So then whatever they promised to the Romans, they would keep everything they over collected. So it was it I don't know what's a word I'm looking for. It was like they could become wealthy quick, and it was encouraged, I guess, by the Romans, whatever, to, I said incentivized. It's probably the best word for it.
Yeah. That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah. So anyway, so here we are. We're gonna go after the whole thing. Everybody was astonished with the healing of the paralytic. And so we pick up in verse 27 that it says here, after this, Jesus went out and noticed a tax collector named Levi, which was that was Matthew's name. Levi later becomes Matthew. Okay.
Yeah, and that's something. When I was reading this, I never knew that was Matthew's name. That his name was Levi before. I guess Jesus gave him a new name of Matthew, which is kind of like what he did with. I'm drawing a blank with Simon Peter. Did the same thing for him, and so that's something I absolutely never knew. I was like, "Who is this Levi guy? I've never even heard of Levi." And then I get to read a little more. I'm like, "Oh, it's Matthew. Okay, interesting."
Well,
The more you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you can imagine like how Matthew felt as a tax collector. He's been considered this traitor, and they were like, these tax collectors were the most visible traitors. They're like the most visible Jewish traitors, and that's because they had a Roman guard they had the protection of the Roman guards standing right there by them, and they were forcing these people to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, did you know, Marshall, that when when a Jew entered into this type of work, that they were immediately outcast from the society, and they were disqualified as a judge or a witness, and they were excommunicated from the synagogue, and also considered a disgrace to the whole family. It was quite the ordeal.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess that's true because, I mean, not I guess, I know it's true, but I actually, when I first realized that and learned that, was watching the Chosen series, because Matthew the tax collector in that series talks about that a few different times, where he's saying how his family really just kind of disowned him and didn't have a whole lot to do with him for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you think about that now, you would never, that wouldn't happen. But it's crazy. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. And then here comes Jesus. As we as we moving on, here comes Jesus. He walks up and he says, "Hey, Levi, follow me." And the in the oh man, I cannot think this. I cannot think today. Um, what that's meaning when he says, "Hey, Levi, follow me. Um, follow me as my disciple. Follow me as," and then it says, "accepting me as your master and teacher, and walking in the path of life that I walk." That was kind of the in the parentheses in this amplified version. So you can imagine, Matthew was he probably had a lot of money. He was the richest. They say he would have been the richest among all of the disciples.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I love reading that. I was reading that earlier when Jesus he just walks up and just says in the red letters, "Follow me," and then it says that it was Jesus that was saying that, and I don't know. I just picture here's Levi or Matthew at his tax booth doing his thing, and I don't know that Levi, maybe he knew of Jesus or did he know of him at all, but still pretty. I would think he's an unfamiliar individual to an extent at this point, and this guy comes up to you, he's like, "Hey, follow me," and I don't think it was like a "Hey, follow me." I think it was kind of a stern like "Follow me." Like a very kind and loving, but a very like "Follow me." I don't know. I just every time I see it, it puts a smile on my face because I just picture Jesus saying that, and how amazing would that be? But it's just crazy. I don't know. And then just to drop everything and follow him. I don't know. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Let's take a break real quick. Okay, hold on just a second. Anyway, all right, now we're back. We're back. So, and here's what I'm thinking, Marshall. That not thinking. We can kind of speculate that that the fish, of course, were taxed, and so here Jesus is calling on Levi or Matthew. From here on out, I'm gonna call him Matthew because that's what we're used to calling him. So Matthew had obviously had most likely taxed these fish, or had taxed Peter, James, and John, and then you see Jesus come along, says, "Follow me." And what does he do? He left everything behind, got up, and began to follow Jesus. So he, in that moment, drops everything. As soon as Jesus says the word, drops everything and goes to follow him. Some would say that was even a greater of a sacrifice than maybe some of the other guys that was even more of a sacrifice than some of the other disciples, because of the fact that he's leaving something he can't come back to, because this tax collector business. Hold on. What is my computer doing? Oh, well, I can't see you. There we go. Now I can. It wasn't you. It was just still popping up with things. Anyway, this tax collector business was very competitive too. So you had a lot of people bidding out these jobs. So they're going to, as soon as Matthew drops what he's doing, there's somebody waiting in line for that position, for that job. And so he's going to give up all these riches, which is what we should do. But at this moment, he's giving up all this for something he doesn't necessarily know what he's getting himself into.
Right.
You catch my drift?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm following you. I'm picking up what you're dropping.
And he's so, just by those few words, that "follow me" was so profound and profound, that, or must have been, that he wants to throw a big party for Jesus, because he wants to bring in his friends. He wants all of his friends, what little friends he does have. Hey, look at this guy. Look at Jesus.
Yeah.
He wants them to know Jesus too.
Well, I mean, how could you not be
as to how
excited? Sorry, how could you not be excited? And not want to throw a party and share who Jesus is after something of that great significance happens to you. You know, I mean, I'd be like,
Yeah.
whoa. It's kind of like when you first become a Christian, you're like really fired up, right? You're like, hey, I'm gonna go take on the world and spread
Yeah.
the gospel to every single person, tell everybody about Jesus, every single person I meet. That's probably how he was, which that's how we should always be. But the fact of the matter is we're usually not.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet that's how he was, just like, woo, he was on fire.
He was on fire. Yeah, and that's exactly what you do. Like, you remember that when you came back from a youth conference or something like that with your church, or a mission trip or whatever, and then you were
Hmm.
so on fire and you were so high on that mountain, you were high on Jesus, and then you came back to school and you were telling everybody, and you trying to share Jesus with anybody and everybody. That's exactly what it's like,
Oh
and that's
yeah,
what I was going to say earlier, was that it's this passage here is a perfect foreshadowing as to how we should act as Christians.
absolutely.
Let's see here where we at. So he gives, so as we get into verse 29, Matthew gave a great banquet for him at his house, and there was a large crowd of tax collectors and others who were reclining at the table with them. So here they are sitting at this table. They're all around this table, and then we brought this up last week, Marshall. Here are these creeps creeping on him. I don't know why these guys are there, but the Pharisees and their scribes, seeing those whom he was associating, began murmuring in discontent to his disciples, asking, "Why are you eating and drinking with these tax collectors and sinners?" And then, of course, sinners being the non observant Jews.
Yeah. The Pharisees to me seem like the people in the church who just have to complain about everything and question everything the pastor
Mm-hmm.
does if it doesn't line up with the King James version. That's what the Pharisees remind me of.
Yep.
No offense to those who like the King James version, nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that, but that's just what it reminds me of.
So, these Pharisees and scribes, they were like indirectly attacking Jesus through his disciples. And of course, Jesus gives this real simple, but yet we'll say it again. It's like it's a real simple answer, but it has so much meaning behind it. I don't know if they were doing this in front of him, or what, where these disciples were as opposed to where Jesus was in the room, or if the disciples were just sitting outside or whatever. But anyway, he says, "Is it not those who are healthy who need?" Oh, wait. Let me see. It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but only those who are sick. I did not come to call self-proclaimed righteous who see no need to repent. Of course, now he's taking a shot at these guys, but sinners to repent, to change your old way of thinking, and to turn from sin and to seek God and his righteousness. These guys thought that they were perfect already. So, of course,
Hmm.
that's not, they needed Jesus,
Yeah.
most definitely.
Yeah.
But they're not going to see it as easily as somebody who is really living in sin, who is really sick. And of course, Jesus, being the great physician he is, that's who he comes. He comes he
Well, it's
comes
like
to
you said,
treat
these
us.
Pharisees think they are, that they're just these perfect people, these perfect religious individuals, um, and better than others. And I love it how Jesus just kind of nonchalantly low blows them. And it's not that that was necessarily his intention, maybe, but I mean, there's a lesson, and I think
Oh
just
no,
about
it surely
everything
was.
Jesus does. You think it was? Yeah, I mean, there's a lesson in just about everything Jesus says and does throughout the Bible. It can be very humbling. It can be very happy. It can be a lot of things. But in this situation, I think it was a very, like you said, low blow to the gut, and a very humbling situation for these Pharisees. Now they probably don't realize it in that moment, but later on,
Hmm.
But yeah.
That's where I was going to go with that next. Is that, or after listening to you talk there, Marshall, is that these guys still didn't pick up on what he was saying, or maybe they
Hmm.
did, and it just infuriated him, infuriate him more. You know,
Oh yeah.
however the heck you say that word. And so then here they go again, trying to trap Jesus, try to come up with stuff, because you can't imagine that these guys are asking questions. Um, oh man, if I was to ask you a question and mean it, or man, what's the word, Marshall?
Like
If
with
I was to ask you a
authority.
question and mean it,
Oh wait, no,
no,
no, no, no.
like
I'm drawing a blank too.
I am too. Yeah, sarcastically asking these questions rather than actually wanting to know the answer to the question that they're asking.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
essentially, of course. Yeah, I don't know. My brain is scattered tonight, but that's exactly what I'm thinking. That this is how they were asking them these questions. So they said in verse 33, they said to him, the disciples of John the Baptist often practice fasting and offer prayers of special petition, and so do the disciples of the Pharisees, but yours eat and drink. Oh my goodness. Whoop-de-doo, right?
Well, you can just sense and see the snarkiness of their comments they're making to Jesus. It's like, well, blah 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 blah, and then here comes Jesus once again with his lesson.
Yeah. And so here they are asking about, why aren't you following the rules? And then it's like, and Jesus said to them, can you make so he gives them this analogy. He answers their question with
A question.
an analogy to, yeah, it's to his day. The way a wedding was
Right.
practiced in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and these weddings were week-long ordeals and whatever, but and I'll give you a little bit of tidbit of information. But anyway, he answers this question like this. Is verse 34. Can you make the wedding guests of the bridegroom fast while he was with them? But the days for mourning will come when the bridegroom is forcefully taken away from them, and they will fast in those days. So I'm going to stop right there real quick, because he's giving them a little snippet about what's going to happen to him, what they are actually going to push him into, and what his job on coming in the flesh
Mm-hmm.
is. But before that, so these wedding feasts were were of joy and happiness in that culture. And so it was a week-long feast. It was a week-long party for this wedding. And so these religious rituals, they were kind of looked over during these times. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was understood that that joy for this occasion was more important than the conformity to the religious rituals of the time,
Right.
which is why he uses that. He's talking about himself here. Can you make the wedding guests of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? He's talking about himself there. So these
Mm-hmm.
disciples, there's no need for them to follow this old law, because they're following the new law already
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
Jesus. That's what Jesus came is what is teaching them right now. He's teaching them the new law.
Mm-hmm. A little
So
side note.
it says something that I go ahead.
As we're reading this, all I can think is imagine, put yourself in Jesus's shoes. Of course, Jesus knew the
Mm-hmm.
outcome of all this. He's God in flesh. But he's like you said, he's saying all this knowing what's going to happen. But just imagine knowing the outcome of what is going to happen soon, and what is to come, and just the pain and the torment that he is soon to bear for everybody. I'm just like, but yet he does it with such joy and love and happiness, and just I don't know. That's, as I read this, because he's just like, would it be like a foreshadow kind of a deal? Is that the right word?
Well, to him,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, essentially, if that's the right word. I don't
Yeah, I mean
know.
that's what that's pretty much he tells everybody what his job is,
Mhm.
in many different ways, several times throughout his time here on earth. He's always
Right.
trying to prepare. Jesus is always trying to prepare his disciples and everybody around him that he's come to die for our sins. And so
Right.
he tells them in many different ways.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, carry on.
And well, and that's where he goes into there will come a day when the fasting is appropriate for them because they're going to be mourning. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to take him away.
Yeah.
So now he's going to go into a different parable coming in verse 36 here. He's going to go into a different parable now explaining new law versus old law, and you can't fit this new law into the old form. You can't fit new into old. It's just not going to work. So
Yeah.
he goes into it. No one tears a piece of cloth from a new garment and puts it on an old one. Otherwise, he will both tear the new and the piece from the new will not match the old. No one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the fermenting wine will expand and burst the old skins, and it'll be spilled out, and the skins will be ruined. But the new wine must be put into fresh wineskins, and no one after drinking old wine wishes for new, for he says the old is fine. So now he goes back to talking about them kind of remaining in a. He goes back to talking about how just because people are comfortable with the old, they assume that the old is better.
Right.
So anyway, all in all, what the last part of this chapter is here Jesus is basically saying Jesus came to introduce something new, and he's not here to patch up the old system.
Right.
He's here to introduce something completely new.
Mm-hmm.
He just and the thing about the thing that we can take away from it is that he also doesn't destroy the old law. He doesn't destroy, but what he does is he fulfills it
Yeah.
perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And what we say and fulfill it is you take a seed that grows into something else. There is a sense in which the seed is still there, but it has bloomed into something great.
Yeah.
This analogy I was reading was there's a sense in which just as an acorn is fulfilled when it grows into an oak tree, there is a sense in which the acorn is gone, but its purpose is fulfilled in greatness. I found that to be
Yeah.
a really good
Interesting.
analogy as to how Jesus fulfilled the old law.
I like it.
So that finishes out on chapter 5.
I love it. Chapter 5 so far, I
Yeah.
think what we've read so far, I think was my favorite. We'll see what the rest of it has in store, but so far 5 tops it for
It's
me.
getting good because
It is getting good.
some of the other, yeah, I mean, because it, and then leading up, there's a lot of meanings, and we probably could have gone a little deeper in some aspects of it. But hey, that's our translation of it. That's our interpretation of it. Whatever, however you want to look at it, that's kind of how we take it, and it kind of hopefully people can take a little something out of it and read it for themselves. Of course, we always put that disclaimer out here as we're going on through this Bible study that you need to go and read this stuff for yourself, because there's parts of it that we are skipping over. We're not reading it completely verbatim. We are reading it, but you do have to read it yourself.
Well, yeah, it's important for you guys to read this yourself and ask questions. And you can ask us questions. You can email us. You can send us messages on social media, or ask your pastor, ask other friends that you look up to, and you can rely on that are good Christian, mature Christian individuals. That's very important. Don't take our word for everything. We're humans. We make mistakes just like everybody else. So it's important to read this for yourself.
Yeah. So, well, all right. Well, we got this in under an hour at least, Marshall.
Hey, it's a record.
How cool is that? I know. All right, man. Well, I have got to go figure out. I pulled some pork chops out. Our hog got done this week, so I was like, "Hey," Ashley was asking me what I wanted for dinner. I was like, "Let's pull out some of that piggy I got last night, and let's see what we can do there."
You guys have a cow. You got a hog.
Yeah.
What's next? What's next? Golly, you got the whole barnyard out there in your freezer.
Right. That's a good thing to have, and thank the Lord. Thank it's only by his grace that we have as much meat in the freezer as we do. Because of course,
Well,
I obviously cannot seal the deal come elk season.
it's funny. I'll throw this in here real quick. Me and Kelsey always say, my wife, we always say, if the poo hits the fan in America and the grocery stores dry up, we know where we're going. We're heading north to Aaron and Ashley's
Yeah.
house because we know that we will be able to survive there with Aaron's survival talents and techniques that he's accrued over the years. He knows a lot more than I do. I can do a little bit, but he knows
Even
way
in
more than I do.
and now we're trying to do that in town. How do you be self-sufficient
Yeah,
in town?
you have
Which
to
it's
adapt.
possible. I mean, we're getting there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a little bit of an adaptation, but I think it's fully possible to be. I mean, because we're there. I mean, of course, we have a big lot. It's almost about a half acre. You can do a lot on a half acre.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Most definitely.
I mean, we're gonna try. This year. We've got to get our greenhouse built. As soon as that's built, we're looking at getting into a little bit more aquaponics, and so that way we'll have a fish source and year-round growing on
Yeah.
in the top. And so
I like those
But yeah.
aquapons. Those are neat.
well, I mean, we're already seeing it. Well, we're already seeing. I mean, of course, we know this is coming, but we're seeing it now. I mean, have you heard of like whatever? I don't know, salad shortages, and now supposedly there's supposed to be an egg shortage, and it's coming.
Oh, yeah, there's shortages of all sorts of stuff, and prices are going through the roof. I was talking to some coworkers today about how eggs are $7, $8, $9, for a dozen. We found them for a couple dollars at a store that we go to in town. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, and that's something that my wife and I want to get into is getting chickens and start having some animals that we can raise and our own garden and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, it's good to be resourceful. And it's good to be able to rely on yourself because one of these days this stuff's going to shut down and it ain't going to be there for you. And then what are you going to do?
I encourage everybody. If chickens at least,
And they're easy. That's easy. They hatch
Easy.
eggs,
And they're
you
not-
collect them, and if you got to slaughter them, it's a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
I say that.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong with them. They don't stink.
No.
Contrary to what people believe, they're not that stinky, and they're depending on where you put them, they can be awfully clean, and it's not that expensive to keep them. You can feed them table scraps. You can feed them practically anything.
Well, and if
So,
you have an issue
you can
with
supplement their
insects
feed
or
with table scraps.
yeah, like mosquitoes, they eat the heck out of mosquitoes. You get yourself like 5 or 10 chickens in the backyard. You got mosquitoes, say bye-bye to your mosquitoes, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, those of you listening, you want to know how to be a little bit more self-sufficient? Get chickens. Because, like Marshall was saying, you can kill them for meat. You can just keep them for eggs. Either way, that is a great starting animal. Starting, things. Most places, they're available. They're, however, but they don't have to be expensive either. You can make things. You can make their coop for next to nothing.
Oh, absolutely. And the eggs are a great source of protein. And think about it this way too: if you're growing your own food and you have your own animals and stuff, what a great way to trade. You're gonna have to have something. Okay, look, we're getting into a whole nother podcast here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, now we're getting into like I have this feeling that I need to say, all right, everybody, let's just start making stuff on our own. Let's ditch the money and go to the trade system. I'd be all right with that.
Hey, I mean, I'd be okay with it. We'd all learn eventually.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Anyway.
So, all right, man. Well, let's get out of here, huh?
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening to another episode, Undaunted Pursuit podcast. We'll see you all next time. Bye.
See you later. Appreciate you.
Hey guys, and thank you for listening to Undaunted Pursuit Podcast. Give us a good rating on iTunes, good review, leave us 5 stars, and follow us on YouTube. Click that subscription bell. Keep up to date with the newest episodes.
And don't forget to follow us on other social media outlets such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to email us at undauntedpursuit@gmail.com and go to our website at undauntedpursuit.podbean.com.
And don't forget, if you like what you're hearing, go to Patreon, follow us on Patreon, subscribe to our channel there. There's a small tier for donations. Any help, any support, this podcast is made possible by you, the patron. We thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Well, God says use the gifts that were given to you to make disciples of all nations by spreading His love and truth. It might not look the same to you, but I love Jesus. Country music, rock and roll and blues, yeah. Yes, I do. And if it takes electric guitar and screaming to the top of my lungs, then that's just what I'll do. If it points down, if it points down to you, Father, help me point them to the sun. Help me reach the brighter goal than running a gun still on the run. You use my song to light a fire down in their soul. Cause there ain't nothing wrong with a lot of Jesus and a little rock and roll. If it takes electric guitar screaming to the top of my lungs, and that's just what I do. If it points down, if it points down to you, Father, help me point them to the sun. Help me reach the brighter goal. Let run of the gun, I'm still on the run. Use my song